The bitch told you, sexy black motherfucker. Yeah. Name on the wood, I'm watching Jimmy Butler. Since I came home, I've been killing every summer. That real boss bitch, and I started as a.
What's up, you guys? It's your girl Jada J, and for this week's video, we are doing a full acrylic set tutorial from start to finish. As you can see, I'm pushing her cuticles back. This is important to give you more space as a nail tech in terms of your application, which will in turn allow you to have better retention. This will also just give the client a more clean, defined look around her cuticles, which we know the girlies love. Just take your time and don't push too hard because you will be able to go in like I am here with your round cuticle drill bit. I love this bit because it's almost nearly impossible to cut your client's cuticles unless you're using it on a super high speed. So do want to know I do use my drill bit on a low setting, probably no higher than 5. But I'm starting from the bottom and I'm moving up and I'm working my way around the cuticle. I don't like to start from the middle. I like everything to be smooth because you want to work with the drill and not against the drill. As noted, I do use my drill in reverse. As a right-handed nail tech, I just find that using it in reverse works a lot better for the natural motion of my hand. Next, I'm going to go in with my medium grit sanding band. Medium grit as in the coarseness level of the bit. I don't like it too coarse, but I don't like it to be smooth because you can't really work with it. So once again, I'm just working from the bottom up, being careful around her cuticles. You do want to be more careful with this bit simply because the coarseness can scratch the client a little bit. So just take your time. Don't push down too heavy on the natural nail. We're just buffing off that shine and getting off that excess cuticle that appeared when you push the cuticle back. I'm using the same bottom to middle motion. Next, I'm going to go in with my ASP nail dehydrator from Sally's. You can use any dehydrator you prefer or even alcohol. Some techs do use that. Some nail techs feel like dehydrator isn't necessary, but personally, I feel like better safe than sorry, especially if you have a client who has oily nail beds or maybe someone who has clammy hands. I feel like this is just an extra step to make sure your retention is good. I normally go in and do this step twice. I think I'm on my second one right here just to ensure that that nail bed is nice and dry for that nail tip and that nail glue to adhere to the nail properly. Gonna give it a good fan and move on to the next step. So now I'm going to go in with my nail tips. These can also be found in my Amazon storefront link in my description. These are the tapered square tips that I really like to use. And now I have my IBD 5-second ultra fast glue. These two are my go-to combo for doing acrylic sets. Like I said, these are tapered squares, so you don't really have to worry about the shaping aspect if you're doing square nails, that is. Obviously, if you were doing another shape, you got to cut them. But the girlies love tapered squares, so this is like a go-to. Next, I'm going to go back in with my sanding band on a low setting once again, and I'm going to file the point where the natural nail and the artificial tip meet. This is important to me personally because number one, you're getting off that excess glue that you may have accidentally squeezed out, and you're also making it more of a seamless blend, which is very helpful for application. I feel like it's just so satisfying. I don't know why. Be careful not to bear down on the natural nail. You don't want to keep filing the natural nail too much. So make sure you're focusing on only the tip. You don't want to overfile the natural nail. So be careful with that. So now I'm going in and cutting my tips. As you guys seen on my cover page, this is a short set. I had a couple requests to do a short set, so that's what we're doing. I love short nails, honestly, so I was like, okay, period. I'm gonna go ahead and do this. So my nail cutting tutorial, or my method, I guess I should say, is a little bit unconventional. I've been doing this for a long time, and I just personally feel like this is the best method. I make sure the client likes the length of the first nail, and I try to match it up best with the next nail, if that makes sense. And I feel like this works because a lot of times clients don't want their nails to be the same length for whatever reason, whether it's work or their personal life. So with the TikTok methods or like the little metal magnetic method, I feel like those are also inconsistent. And I'd rather be consistent with what the client wants. And I'd also like the nails to look a certain way for my preference. And you'll see once I'm done matching them up to each other, I'm going to go in and match each nail up to its corresponding nail on her other hand. It kind of sounds confusing when I say it in words, but I think I gave a pretty good visual of what I'm doing. I'm taking the nail and matching it up to each other because it seems like even when you do, people's nail beds and natural nails are different lengths. So I feel like when you factor that in, even if you're using those magnetic things or other types of nail measurements, it's never really the same. And I also have good vision, so I'm pretty good at matching them up. I'm doing the same thing for her thumbs. A lot of people like their thumbs shorter too, so I normally end up doing shorter thumbs, but these are a short set anyway. This is actually a custom acrylic that I made for the nude, and I'm going in with the Beauty Secrets clear acrylic. I can't tell y'all what I put in that custom acrylic, but of course I'm using my Young Nails EMA monomer and my Young Nails protein bond primer. These are my go-tos. They haven't failed me yet. So for our application portion, you'll see me putting my primer on first, always, 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 don't forget that. And this is going to be the two bead method. I did the three bead method for my long nails and I used the two bead method for my short nails, okay? The brush I'm using is the Kiara Sky nail brush. So the first bead you're going to want to take is obviously going to be a pretty small bead. I'm going to tap it on my paper towel for just a second and I'm going to fold it. It's kind of hard to explain, but I folded half of the bead on top to the next half. And that just ensures that the acrylic stays in a pretty good spot until you get to moving it around. Also notice, as I noted at the bottom of the screen, I placed it right where, once again, the natural nail and the artificial tip meet, and this is going to help give you a base for your apex. Always pay attention to your sidewalls. You'll see me throughout this entire application process, swiping and making sure my sidewalls are in check. So for your second bead, you're going to take an even smaller bead and you're going to place it slightly below the cuticle. Pay attention here. And you see how I'm barely even touching it, and I'm patting it, and I'm letting the acrylic settle. Let that chemical reaction work with you. Okay, and take your time. Don't rush. And I also want you to know how I have her finger pointed slightly down. This is going to ensure that the acrylic doesn't run and flood into the cuticle because that will cause lifting. And I can promise you, you're not going to be able to file it off. You're just going to end up cutting the skin. So be very, very careful about not flooding your client's nails. And notice how I'm not even really dragging it, I'm simply patting it. Okay, and keep moving it around until you get it exactly where you want, and then you can start doing those swiping motions at the end. I know people be wearing gloves, y'all. I'm sorry, I'm not a gloves girl. I have tried to be a gloves girl, but these are my sister's nails, so I feel like I get too sweaty and stuff when I'm under all those lights. But once again, go in, take your small bead at the center of the tip and the natural nail right at the center. Pat, pat, pat. And this is honestly, acrylic application is really something that you have to be repetitive with. If you don't practice it, I feel like it's going to take you a million years to get good at it. This is definitely something that takes repetition. Also, notice right here how I brush the acrylic back upward. If you don't want to waste acrylic, don't be afraid to brush it back upward. Just make sure that you have a good ratio of monomer on your brush so that way your brush doesn't get dirty. But yeah, don't be afraid to wipe it and push it in different directions. You control the acrylic. Do not let the acrylic control you. That's like my biggest tip for acrylic application. But once again, I do my little fold method where I try to keep it together and I do a little bit of padding. I also move the nail from side to side because once again, you don't want it to flood. So don't be afraid to shift the client's nails, move her fingers around a little bit because she should be relaxed anyway, or he should be relaxed, whoever's nails you're doing. But don't be afraid to move up, down, side to side. You're controlling the motion, you're controlling where that acrylic goes, and let gravity work with you. I'm wiping my sidewalls and making sure that my cuticles around the edges are good. I'm patting, patting, patting. And these nails are really short, so I really didn't have to do much swiping. You can see I turned my exposure down. I was like, wow, that's a lot of light, but luckily it ended up still looking pretty good. Don't forget to put the primer on, y'all. Even after doing all these years, I still forget sometimes, not gonna lie. So put that primer on. It might not last. I can't guarantee how long it's gonna last if you don't put that primer on, okay? Taking a super small bead for that pinky. And I don't know how her pinky got messed up right there. As a nail tech, sometimes you just look away and you come back and it's messed up. But yeah, anyways, I'm gonna have to file that off. I wanted to show the thumb application, even though of course it's the same process. I feel like I never really give the thumbs love, although I really love thumbs. I don't know why. It's so satisfying putting them on, I guess because they're a little bit wider. But I'm just using the same technique. I'm doing a lot of patting, not a lot of swiping. I'm doing a lot of patting, making sure my sidewalls are in shape. Once again, you see how I folded my acrylic and made sure it was all in the center before I started moving it around. I'm constantly moving her thumb from side to side, patting, 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 and then once I get it where I want, I'm swiping it down lightly. This is how the application turned out. I was trying to get some side angles to kind of show you the little bump or the little apex. You can kind of see it in a couple little side angles I gave you here. She was not working with me, y'all, but my cuticles look good. The thumbs look so cute. That's just short nails are just so cute. But next, I'm gonna go in with my Panna Carbide drill bit. This is the drill that's gonna help get all that hard acrylic off. This is your more rough nail drill, so definitely use extra precaution with this carbide bit or with any carbide bit you use. Here I'm just showing you how I'm using it on a low setting, which is 4. These drills go all the way up to 100, y'all, and I'm only using 4. So remember that. It does not take a lot. So you see at the bottom, I went ahead and reinforced that little C curve. And then I'm going to honestly have a really good grip on her finger. You want to have really good grip in case your clients move. But I'm going to go from bottom to top. Once again, I'm working my way around her cuticles, really taking my time. One thing I really want you guys to pay attention to here is how I'm pointing her nail downward at certain points and how I'm lifting her nail upward at certain points. And this is just simply because of how the bit is shaped. You can see it has a smooth tip at the end of it, but at certain angles, it still can get really close to the skin. So from the free edge, I normally do just go side to side, and getting a clean, nice thickness around the edge. Because I know that's something a lot of people have questions about. If you want it to look clean, you want to even out that free wall, that free edge, excuse me. And you don't have to drill a lot, especially with short nails. Once you get the apex, normally if your application is good, you shouldn't have to drill a lot. Once again, every time I do around her cuticles, I point the nail downward because you're going to have a better sight of vision when doing the cuticles if you point the nail downward. I'm pointing the nail upward for the free edge because that gives me a clearer view of how it looks in totality. But just take your time and make sure your client is relaxed, because if you're moving the nail up and down, back and forth, getting those angles, you want to make sure your client is relaxed. The stiffer your client is, the more likely they are to be cut. Okay, remember that. So don't be afraid to tell your client to relax, okay? And don't be afraid to put your hand. You see how close my fingers are? I've been doing this for a long time, so I'm not scared of the drill. And you can't be scared of the drill either, okay, girl? Get close, especially with short nails, because you have to get really up close and personal to make sure you're drilling the right areas. And this also lets me personally ensure, like, okay, if I go off a little bit, I'd rather cut myself than cut my client too. So everybody has their own little techniques, but just be mindful of how you're doing this. I thought I'd show you guys this, but I had to go really hard to smoothen that out. If you take your time to do your application right, especially on short nails, because the last thing you want is thick short nails, you guys. So don't use super big beads, because the one thing girls hate is thick, fat, short nails. You don't want that. So yeah. So I'm using my Carlash nail file 8080 grit. I love 8080 grit. To me, it's the only one that's coarse enough to get through prep and the full set of shaping. So I'm starting with my sidewalls, filing up and down. One of the important things I want you guys to take note of here is how I'm constantly lifting up the nail file. I'm only going to file for a couple seconds and I'm going to lift it up. This is due to the friction that the filing creates, because a lot of times you may not even be cutting the client, but they'll think you're cutting them because of that friction that's heating up their skin between the file and the nail. Okay, so lift up every few seconds just so it doesn't create that heat. But I'm just going in filing my sidewalls first to ensure it has the square shape, and then I go in and file my bottom, okay? Also, you'll see me pushing out the sides here. I just like to do that because once again, it allows me to file the sides and excess acrylic that may be on it a little bit easier without cutting the client. And notice how for different sections of the nail, I'm repositioning my hand on the file. As I'm filing the part that's right around the roundness of her cuticle, I actually reach my hand towards the top of my file and file like that just so I have a better grip. Now, if you're doing long nails, that might not be necessary, but just pay attention to how you're holding the nail file. You can't hold the nail file the same way and file different angles. It's just not going to work, okay? So another thing, after you finish filing a nail, take a step back and look at it. You see how I'm grabbing the whole hand and looking at the nails as a whole? I'm looking at the shape as a whole. Don't just think, oh, I filed every single point. I did all hit all my points. It should look good. No. Go back, look at it. Don't be too proud. Double check your work, okay? And I'm also holding her finger at different angles. I want to make you don't want to hurt the client nail, because I know some people say you go to the nail salon and they file and they file and it hurts. I'm actually holding her fingers pretty tightly every single time I go to file. I'm pushing down, putting pressure on that nail. You see that? Especially when I'm filing the free edge at the bottom, I grab her nail from the top, or I'll grab it from the side just to ensure her nails isn't hurting. Especially for your clients who get their nails done a lot, or your sensitive clients who don't get them done that often, that's something important too. Everything is about the comfortability of the client. You want to be constantly thinking about making your client comfortable. One of the things I pride myself in is my client say it's very comfortable, I'm not heavy handed, and I'm very mindful. And that's definitely something that you want your clients to walk away and say about you. See how I'm just filing my sidewalls first, and see how I grab the top of her nail and I'm pinching in on the sides to make sure that I don't hurt her nail as I file back and forth or up and down. Right there, I kind of fouled on the top because, like I said, that one was kind of messed up. So I had to foul on the top to kind of smoothen that out a little bit. It all depends on what you have to fix for each nail. Each nail will require, something a little bit different. I hope y'all don't think I'm talking too much, but I gave it one final look and I said it's good. Now I'm going to go in and buff the nail. Once again, no shade. If If you did good acrylic, the nail should honestly already be smooth. So this is just the final smoothing out for your designs. You just want to make sure that it's smooth for your painting and things like that. But overall, you shouldn't have to buff it too much. After I buff it out, I'm gonna pat away that excess dust and we're going to get into our designs. So I will be using the spider gel out of my Amazon link. Also, my Macart rhinestone glue, as well as my ASP hot white gel from Sally's, and my Valentino Beauty pure top coat. I also used the D&D top coat y'all seen in another video, but I ran out, so I decided to go back with my holy grail and get the Valentino. I did not use base coat for this. I normally don't use base coat when I'm doing white. I don't know what it is. I just don't think it's necessary. Maybe because of the gel that I use, I don't use base coat when I'm doing white. But y'all just see me put the rhinestone glue on for the little parts that I am using rhinestones at. I only use like 3 rhinestones for each hand. So here I am just using my little wax stick and placing those rhinestones where I want them. And then also for this set, I decided to take my little pink blue light to try and get them rhinestones more secure. I really thought I was doing something, but I don't think it really helped. Honestly, that's why I don't care to use it. But that's why I say you can't buy everything and try everything that you see on the internet, because to me, it helps sometimes with the big charms, but it's kind of a give or take thing sometimes. The nail that I'm doing the acrylic flowers on, I went ahead and top coated that nail. This is also something you can do of preference. But since the nail is so small and the acrylic flowers are going to take up literally 98% of the nail, I figured it made more sense to go ahead and top coat it just so I'm not top coating my acrylic flowers. If I was doing a bigger nail, I might not have done this step. So I'm just going to put her in the light to cure that nail, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. Now, I can say that acrylic flowers are definitely something you have to practice. It's something that if I can say I took some time to practice on. It did not come overnight. As the caption says here, you want to take very small beads. I try my best to show y'all, but it's kind of hard. But take a very small bead, and this is not my brush. This is actually a nail art brush that I'm using, and I'm going to slowly place it down. You want to let it flatten out a little bit. You want to let that reaction take place for a second. Pause. This sped up, I think, but take a moment and let it fluffy out a little bit. And I prefer my acrylic flowers to be a little more pointy. So y'all are going to see me bring it in at the tip just to give it more of that pointy shape. I think it's so cute. And I'm also pointing a little bit, pushing in a little bit in the middle to create that 3D effect. Tiny, tiny, tiny beads. Actually, for this one, oh, the camera is not clearing out, girl. But for this one, I actually accidentally picked up too small of a bead. But I will say, you would rather, for acrylic flowers, you would rather pick up a too tiny bead than a too big bead and it take up too much space, or you not be able to do the design that you want to do. So you'll see here, I took another bead and placed it on top. I let it flatten out a little bit, and then I began to press it in the middle and I pull it a little bit. I pull it forward a little bit. That's how you're going to spread it out. And then I'm going to take the ends and I'm going to pinch it in. It's definitely way easier said than done, okay, you guys? So practice, practice, practice. And even now, when I'm doing acrylic flowers, I really have to like concentrate on it because it's so annoying when you have to scrape them off and try again. Oh my gosh. But if you do mess up, I will say a tip: if you aren't good at them, top coating is probably your best option. Because if you're doing them on hard, dry acrylic, it's going to be harder to take it off, number one, and it's just not going to be as clean. So if you mess it up, you'd rather mess it up on top coat because it will swipe off a little bit easier. But I'm just doing the same thing. I'm taking a super duper small little bead of acrylic. I'm actually dapping it on my towel for a second, I believe. It depends on how wet it was. And I'm also kind of annoyed with this little diamond right here because I didn't put it exactly where I wanted. So the flower didn't cut at the right angle. So you'll see me try and curve it in a little bit here at the end. You see how I pinched it up to try and get it to meet, but it was still cute. So I just decided to leave it alone. But there I am, just pinching it in a little bit, putting pressure in the middle to create that little petal. And there you have it. So cute. I love acrylic flowers. Once you learn how to do them, you'll never stop wanting to do them. Next, we are doing our French tip. I skipped over the index finger just because I didn't get a good angle, but once again, I am right-handed. I don't really have the best French tip tutorial. You will hear a lot of nail techs say this. Most of us learned it by simply freehanding it a million bajillion times. But the one thing I do want to know, as a right-handed painter, I paint upward on the right side to perfect the smile line, and I paint downward on my left side. I don't know why, but that seems to be the best thing to work for me. You see me doing that here. And the most important thing to remember with French tip is being able to visualize how you want your French tips, because there's a lot of different versions of smile lines. So it's really just about what smile line you want to see on the nail. But I feel like with short nails, normally you're going to want to do a pretty deep smile line, which just means not that much French, not that much white, or whatever color you're using. But I just go back and forth, down and up in a counterclockwise motion until I get it how I want it. French tips is something that you also have to practice, practice, practice. And me personally, all the tutorials I've seen of other nail techs, they just never really worked for me. And that's why I just ended up freehanding them. Because all that math and drawing it out and with the pencil and stuff like that, it just was too much for me. It was too much. So as a nail tech, you definitely have to be able to visualize, and you have to be able to be okay with repetition. So she's gonna go ahead and put that in the light. I wasn't able to I ain't gonna lie, y'all, I forgot to record the spider gel, but it's so cool. I feel like everybody should try it. But you're basically just pinching it around the nail and getting it exactly how you want it. But it's something that you really can have fun with. So I wouldn't stress that part too much. But I do want to note for the top coat, I did spend a little extra time rubbing it inside that 3D-ness of the spider gel, just so you can make sure that every part of the nail is top coated. But top coat is pretty self-explanatory. And here I am just doing my cuticle oil, which is my favorite part. And there you have it, her final product. Super cute. I love how these turned out. Tapered square, short nails, French tips, spider gel, bling, acrylic flowers. These got the whole nine, y'all. I'm out of breath. But give this video a like, comment, and share if you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys want to see next. And bye.
I'm too sexy for this too sexy for your girl, too sexy for this world, too sexy for the ice, too sexy for that jet, yeah, yeah. I'm too sexy for this chain, too sexy for your game.